People know that I love talking about the Gospels. My PhD dissertation was on the Gospel of Luke. I teach Gospels all the time at the seminary level, and much of my research is focused on the Gospels, specifically the parables. So what 7 resources would I put on my shelf or on my digital shelf on my hard drive to study the Gospels well? Why don't you go grab yourself a cup of coffee or tea and join me in my study as I give you my top 7 resources for studying the Gospels well. All right, now that you got your cup of coffee or cup of tea, man, and I'm looking at myself, I need a haircut. Welcome to the Pastor's Study. My name is Dave, and here in the Pastor's Study, we seek to help you interpret the Scriptures faithfully, proclaim the gospel well, and grow in your appreciation for how to shepherd God's people. I'm delighted to have you with me today as we are diving in to my top 7 resources for studying the Gospels. Make sure to check out the description for affiliate links on any of the resources that I mentioned today. I do collect a commission for those if you use the link to purchase something. It really does help out the channel. So if you're going to buy one of these books or resources that I recommend, please use the affiliate link. It does really help out the channel. All right, so number 7. We're going to start with number 7 on my list, and let's be honest for a moment. I could have started this list with a survey of the Gospels. You know, Josh Jipp just published one called Reading the Gospels as Christian Scripture by Baker Academic. Mark Strauss has, I think it's in like the second, third edition of his 4 Portraits, One Jesus. Those are surveys of the Gospels, and I could have gone with that, but that feels a little like cheating when it comes to a top 7 resource list. So I'm going to start number 7 with Raymond Brown's 2 books. There's really, one book has 2 volumes, so it's hard to say. Is that 2 or 3? Anyways, 2 books, The Birth of the Messiah and then The Death of the Messiah. The birth narratives and the death narratives of Jesus are hugely significant for studying the Gospels. Now, the haters out there might say that, okay, these books are too technical, and you might be right a little bit if you're in that camp. But if you're going to study the Gospels, you have to be able to understand how Matthew and Luke begin, for example, and how all of them almost conclude with the death of Jesus. Obviously, there's a resurrection and ascension in the case of Luke, but like the passion narratives are a large portion of the gospel narratives. And so, despite being published almost 30 years ago, these books by Raymond Brown still hold up as great resources. So number 7 are the 2 books by Raymond Brown, The Birth of the Messiah and The Death of the Messiah. Coming in at number 6 is my recommended resource on the parables, which is Klyne Snodgrass's book, Stories with Intent. If you've watched my series on interpreting the parables, then you know that this is the book I recommend to anyone. If you want to have one book on your shelf to study the parables, this book is it. Now, it's a bit more like a commentary on the parables, and I don't agree with everything that Snodgrass says, and sometimes it feels a little bit more like he's harmonizing some of the parables. But if you're looking for one book on the parables to get, then this is a fairly exhaustive resource on the parables. Klyne Snodgrass's Stories with Intent comes in at number 6 on my list. Coming in at number 5 is a book that will help you read the Gospels as narratives. The Gospels are narratives. They have a beginning and they have an ending, and the whole account in between is moving from that beginning towards that ending. And so how do we read them as narratives? Why is a particular passage here in the gospel and not someplace else? What happens if you were to take a passage, just take it out of the gospel? How would that impact the narrative as a whole? What would be lost? These are the kind of questions that we should be asking to read the gospels well. So these questions are really answered well in Jonathan Pennington's book, Reading the Gospels Wisely. Now, there's a number of books out there on this topic. Some of them can get sort of technical or just harder to read. One of the strengths about Pennington's book is that it's really readable. And it covers other things too, the sort of the theological nature of the Gospels, and I think that's helpful. But in terms of just reading the Gospels as narratives, this book, I strongly encourage you, grab it and begin to learn how to read the Gospels as narratives. Number 5 on my list is Jonathan Pennington's book, Reading the Gospels Wisely. Coming in at number 4 is one of my favorite newer books that's been published in the last 5 or 6 years, I would say, and that's Helen Bond's The First Biography of Jesus. I debated long and hard over this one. Some might disagree with this because they don't agree that the Gospels should be understood as ancient biographies. Some also might criticize this as being a little on the technical side, but I think it's a great example of how understanding the genre of the Gospels, and I take the genre of the Gospels to be ancient biography for the most part, how understanding the Gospels as biographies impacts our hearing of them, our interpretation of them. It's a fantastic book. It gets into what ancient biographies were like, and then it looks specifically at Mark's Gospel and how understanding Mark as an ancient biography dramatically informs our reading of the Gospel. So really recommend this book. Even if it's a bit of a heavy read for you, it's still good value at number 4 on my list. Helen Bond's The First Biography of Jesus. Number 3 on my list is really a 3A and 3B. I'm sort of cheating with this one. It's a 2-for-1, but that's because number 3A is a synopsis of the 4 Gospels, and 3B then should be a book helping you understand how to read the Synoptic Gospels. If you're not familiar with these terms, synopsis, synoptic, basically a long time ago, a scholar put together the 3 Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, known as the Synoptic Gospels, and put a synopsis of them together, meaning so that you could view them side by side. You could view them together and then see how they compare with one another. And this resource is a really fantastic one because there's a lot of overlap between Matthew, Mark, and Luke. John, completely different. It's a whole nother ball game. And even there are verbatim phrases or sentences in Matthew, Mark, and Luke. And so it's helpful to see where these occur and how the stories around these verbatim phrases are structured in each of the individual Gospels. Now, I strongly recommend getting a synopsis of the Gospels, and you'll see a link in the description, and then getting a book on how to study the Synoptic Gospels. Now, the one I prefer is a bit technical, and it's often hard to find. It's Studying the Synoptic Gospels by E.P. Sanders and Margaret Davies. But if you can't find it, or if you look at it and you're like, that's too much for me, Dave, then I would recommend getting Stanley Porter and Brian Dyer's edited volume in the 4 Views series on the synoptic problem, looking at 4 different ways to approach studying the Synoptic Gospels. That would be a good option if you're looking for a little bit more of a budget option, or one that's a little less technical. Now, I always advise students when you're studying the Synoptic Gospels to be careful to not over read your comparisons of them, to really strive to read each gospel on its own terms and not just harmonize them. But as long as you're being cautious in your study of them, these resources here at number 3, a synopsis and a book on the Synoptic Gospels, really, really great resources to have on your bookshelf. Number 2 on my list was also on my previous resource video, and that is the IVP Dictionary on Jesus and the Gospels. This dictionary is chock full of entries on all kinds of peoples, places, things, etc. in the Gospels. You want to look up something, you're reading about the Sadducees in the Passion account in Luke's Gospel, and you want to learn more about what do they think. Go to the IVP Dictionary on Jesus and the Gospels. You want to learn more about Bethlehem or coins in the ancient world or whatever you're reading and you're like, man, I want to dig deeper into this issue. This dictionary is fantastic because not only does it give you a description of it, it'll recommend a little mini bibliography for further study. Fantastic thing to have on your shelf as you want to dig deeper into your study of the Gospels. Number 2 on my list is the Dictionary of Jesus and the Gospels. All right, number 1 coming in on my list of top 7 resources to study the Gospels is a great commentary, a good solid commentary on each Gospel. As I mentioned in my previous video, commentaries are a fantastic resource to have if you want to dive into an individual book of the Bible. They have a lot of background information on that particular book. They cover the whole text and all the different issues involved in studying a particular passage. Lots of just great resources and information that you can have in one book. So if you're going to study a gospel, I highly recommend that you get a commentary on it. I would say that it is not advised to get a commentary on the whole Bible, like a one-volume commentary on the whole Bible. Rather, get a commentary on the individual gospel that you're studying. So if you're studying Matthew and you're starting a study on Matthew, buy a commentary on Matthew. And when you're done Matthew, maybe you jump to a different book and you come back to, let's say, John, buy a commentary on John. That's my recommended practice for buying commentaries on books of the Bible. Now I'm going to make a top 7 video for each gospel, so hit that subscribe button and ring that notification bell so that you can be notified when those videos come out. For now, let me give you a solid commentary pick for each of the 4 gospels. So let's start with Matthew. Matthew, I'm going to give you 2. One, because the first one, my favorite, really is Davies and Allison's commentary on Matthew in the ICC series, the International Critical Commentary series. The problem with it is twofold. It's really technical, and it's 3 volumes, and so that can be a bit pricey. It's cheaper now that they have paperback versions, but still, that's a lot to ask. So if you want to go 1 volume on Matthew, I would recommend R.T. Francis' commentary on Matthew in the NICNT series. So check that out. Really, really solid commentary choice. For Mark, I really like Adela Yarbrough Collins's commentary in the Hermeneia series. Now I know this one is also technical and expensive, but it's the best in my opinion. I really like it. It's the one I would recommend. For Luke, hands down, I strongly recommend getting Joel Green's commentary on Luke in the NICNT series. It is, now it's been published almost 25, 30 years ago, but it is still my go-to commentary when I'm studying the Gospel of Luke, and I strongly recommend it for you. And then the last one I would recommend on John is D.A. Carson's commentary in the Pillar New Testament Commentary series. Also written a long time ago, but scholars are still referencing it today, and so it is it is passing the test of time for sure. And so I strongly recommend that as a solid pick for a commentary on the Gospel of John. So that's my top 7 list for studying the Gospels. If you like this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. It really does help. If you want to see more of these kinds of videos, please let me know in the comments. If you want to see other videos on how to go about interpreting a passage of Scripture, check out my Interpreting Parables series. I've done 2 parables so far. There's only 30 or so left to do. So I'm going to be in that series for a while. So go check it out. You can find a link in the description. Thank you for joining me today. May the Lord bless your study of His Word and your ministry. Until next time, in the Pastor Study.